Worst Ways People Have Died, Part 5. In 2000, Burger King managers Lisa Goetz and Lori Thomas staged a fake robbery of the restaurant where Lori took the money and Lisa acted as the victim, bound with duct tape and trapped in the walk-in cooler. Unfortunately, police didn't arrive until the next morning, where they found Lisa, who died of hypothermia. According to investigators, Lisa could have easily freed herself from her bindings and escaped the unlocked refrigerator, as she had no signs of forced restraint and the duct tape was loose. In 1998, during a heated marital dispute, a 25-year-old man picked up his 20-year-old wife and threw her off their 8th floor apartment balcony. Somehow the woman became entangled in the power lines below, and in what may have been an effort to save her or maybe finish her off, the man leapt from the balcony aiming for the wires. He missed the power lines completely and plunged to his death, and the woman managed to swing over to a nearby balcony and was saved. Worst Ways People Have Died, Part 4. In 2018, Wendy Thomas and her boyfriend Keno Butler were drinking when they got into an argument. Wendy then stabbed Keno in the hand and beat him up with a table leg before plopping herself on top of him and smothering his face with her stomach. With 300 pounds of body blocking his airways, skinny 120-pound Keno didn't stand a chance and he suffocated to death. In 2004, Michael Warner was an alcoholic, but he developed a painful throat condition that prevented him from drinking through his mouth. He soon found that he could use enemas to consume alcohol through the capillaries in his rectum. One night he poured 100 fluid ounces of wine up his rear end. This caused him to pass out, but the alcohol kept absorbing and sadly he was dead by the morning. Worst Ways People Have Died, Part 3. In 2014, Annie Kim Pham left a bar with some friends, and as they were walking down the sidewalk, Annie accidentally photobombed a group of people who were taking pictures. The group taking the photos picked a fight with Annie, and that's when one of them blindsided her, which then turned into a one-sided brawl, leaving Annie unconscious on the sidewalk. Even though she was rushed to the hospital, doctors pronounced her brain dead. Also in 2014, Diane and her husband were at an airport when they told the airport security that Diane had a pacemaker, but she was still ushered through the metal detector. A few minutes later, when they got to their departure gate, Diane suddenly began to feel unwell and then collapsed. Her husband said no ambulance was called, and when doctors arrived, they seemed unsure as to how to help, and sadly she died cradled in her husband's arms. Right now, a single hacker sitting in a basement somewhere could cause a full-out nuclear war, leading to destruction and loss of life on an unprecedented scale. A hack of a nuclear weapons system could trigger a false alarm, making us think that an enemy's nuclear weapons are on their way. And under current US protocols, the president would have just minutes to decide whether or not to launch a retaliatory strike and start a full-blown nuclear war. The US government has found that these systems are vulnerable to cyber attacks, and the US is not prepared to defend against them. And this is not just a theoretical threat. In 2020, Russian military intelligence hacked into a US IT company and hid malware in a software update that was distributed to government agencies like the Department of Homeland Security. The only way for humanity to ensure a future is to work towards the eventual elimination of nuclear weapons entirely. By raising awareness about the dangers of #HackedNukes, we can help to build public pressure on elected officials to take action and protect us all from this grave threat. YouTubers who have spent time in jail or prison. In 2017, a popular Spanish YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers known as Reset took the filling out of an Oreo cookie and replaced it with toothpaste. He then gave the cookie to a homeless man, claiming that it would help clean his teeth. However, the online community was outraged by the prank, and a petition was created to have Reset's channel deleted, which gained over 125,000 signatures. Things only got worse for Reset when the homeless man's daughter saw the backlash on the internet and decided to take legal action against the YouTuber. In court, Judge Rosa Aragones found him guilty of violating the homeless man's moral integrity and sentenced him to 15 months in prison. Mr. Beast crew members who got fired and why, Part 8. After joining the channel in 2019, Marcus quickly became a fan favorite, but just a year later he was already officially removed from the team, and he didn't go peacefully. He went on a 12-minute delusional and irrational rant on his Instagram story where he claimed that he was a leader while Mr. Beast was a follower, that he thought Mr. Beast was a broken person for firing him, and the craziest claim of them all, and I'm not joking when I say this, Mr. Beast started the pandemic. It's been reported from many sources that that Marcus was actually fired due to a drug problem, but that isn't 100% confirmed. But judging on his Instagram rant, it might not be too far from the truth. MrBeast crew members who got fired and why, part 2. Back in 2018, a YouTuber named FlyDoesYT uploaded a video titled "My Experience Editing for MrBeast, Worst Week of My Life." In this video, Fly accused MrBeast of faking his content and not appearing in his own videos. MrBeast took to Twitter to respond to these outrageous claims, stating that if anyone thinks his videos are fake, they should ask all the people he has given hundreds of thousands of dollars to. He later explained that he paid for Fly's plane ticket, Uber, and a hotel for a week and paid him $750 for 5 days of work, which is very good pay. He then said Fly never mentioned any issues to him while he was there and instead waited until he returned home to blow everything out of proportion in a 25-minute exposing video. He also explained that he wasn't able to fully appear in one of the videos because he has Crohn's disease and needed to take it easy and rest. Despite this controversy, Fly has a relatively successful career on YouTube, building a channel with over 300,000 subscribers. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, part 13. First, now basically anyone can become bulletproof thanks to graphene, which is a single layer of carbon atoms. Graphene can be used to create bulletproof materials that are both practically invincible and practically invisible. Just 2 layers of stacked graphene can absorb the impact of a bullet, effectively stopping it in its tracks. So there's no need for heavy, bulky, bulletproof vests anymore. Next, as we all know, police shootings of criminals are all too common, and they often result in unnecessary deaths. That's where the BolaWrap 150 comes in. This innovative gadget shoots out laser-targeted Kevlar cords that automatically wrap around a criminal's body, disabling their arms and/or legs. This means that they can't use weapons or run away, effectively stopping the situation from escalating. MrBeast crew members who got fired and why, part 7. Back in 2018, before he had the reputation that he has now, Sneako appeared in only one video before getting fired. He appeared in the "I built a working car using only Legos" video, and at the time, Sneako wasn't even posting on YouTube at all. But according to a video later uploaded to Sneako's personal channel titled "The Most Important Lesson I Learned Working for MrBeast," he admitted that he got caught up in his ego while working for the team, and this ultimately led to him getting fired. Worst ways people have died, part 2. When Sam Ballard was 19, he swallowed a slug after being dared to by some friends. But the slug ended up giving him rat lungworm disease, which caused him to fall into a coma for 420 days. When he woke up, he was paralyzed, had seizures all the time, and was unable to speak or eat without the help of a tube. And sadly, 8 years later, he passed away. In 2014, Gary Anderson, who was a very religious man, was telling a story to some co-workers, and right when he said the words "God is good," he suddenly collapsed in a pool of blood. It turns out that a construction worker had dropped his tape measure from a 50-story building, and as it was falling at 140 miles per hour, it struck Gary in the head, killing him instantly. MrBeast crew members who got fired or disappeared without explanation, part 5. Tyler was a regular member of the MrBeast crew, appearing in videos since February 2016 when the channel had only 18,000 subscribers. However, in the video "I opened a restaurant that pays you to eat at it," Jimmy jokingly fired Tyler, which was clearly just a joke, but it actually marked Tyler's final appearance on the channel. But if you check out Tyler's Instagram, you'll see that he still lists himself as a MrBeast director in his bio, and he's often seen hanging out with the MrBeast crew. So Tyler hasn't actually been fired, but is now working from behind the scenes. MrBeast crew members who got fired or disappeared without explanation, part 6. Jake Weddle was once a frequent face on the MrBeast channel, however he gradually began to disappear from the videos. It wasn't until a month after his final appearance in the "I filled my brother's house with slime and bought him a new one" video that Jake would upload a video to his personal channel titled "Why I Left MrBeast." In the video, Jake explained that he left the MrBeast team in order to pursue a career in stand-up comedy full-time, and in the end his relationship with MrBeast ended on good terms and they both still consider each other friends. Dumbest lottery winners, part 4. Back in 2010, Jose Antonio won a $750,000 jackpot, but at the time he was living in the US illegally. And rather than risk deportation by claiming the prize himself, Jose asked his boss to claim the money on his behalf. But after his boss claimed the money, he began to falsely claim that he had actually purchased the winning ticket. Jose sued his boss, and he was able to use security camera footage of him purchasing the ticket to prove that he was the rightful owner of the money. But even though he won the court case, things didn't didn't exactly go smoothly from there. After paying taxes and court fees, Jose was left with only $250,000 of his winnings. And to top it all off, he was then jailed for drunk driving and was eventually deported back to Guatemala. The Dumbest Lottery Winners, Part 5. Back in 1996, Dennis Rossi won a jackpot of $1.3 million. However, instead of telling her husband, Thomas Rossi, about her winnings, she filed for divorce just 11 days later. Thomas had no idea that Dennis had ever won the lottery for 3 years, but when he eventually found out, he launched a lawsuit stating that since they were still married at the time of the win, he was entitled to half of the prize money. And in the end, the judge agreed. He found that Dennis's failure to disclose the lottery winnings constituted fraud, oppression, and malice, and awarded Thomas 100% of the prize money. I'm Gonna Ruin Your Childhood, Part 83. In case you don't know who Dan Schneider is, he was a TV show producer who was responsible for popular shows such as iCarly, Zoey 101, Victorious, and Drake and Josh, to name a few. But he is mostly known for being a creep, and here's just one example. Miranda was celebrating her 18th birthday on set, and here you can see she tries to avoid Dan by stepping back. Pay attention to how he holds her and hugs her. You can clearly see how uncomfortable Miranda looks. Here he looks down at her and she slowly starts to step away from him. Worst ways people have died. In 2008, 17-year-old Asia LaShawn Ferguson was riding the Batman ride at the Six Flags amusement park when his hat flew off his head. After getting off the ride, he scaled 2 fences and entered a restricted area in an attempt to retrieve his hat. As he reached his hat, the Batman ride came barreling towards him at 50 miles per hour and ended up decapitating him instantly. Next, in 2013, 22-year-old Kyle Lee Stocking and his 5 friends saw a rope swing stunt on YouTube and wanted to recreate it. Everything was fine, but there was one fatal thing that they didn't check properly. The length of the rope was longer than the drop down, so when Kyle jumped, he plummeted straight into the ground, killing him instantly. Mr. Beast crew members who got fired or disappeared without explanation, Part 4. Ty made his first appearance in the world's largest bowl of cereal video back in 2019. He was actually picked up on the side of the road by the Mr. Beast crew, and after tons of positive feedback from the viewers in the comments, he was able to return to the channel and appear in a total of 7 different videos. However, despite his popularity on the channel, Ty was never an official member of the Mr. Beast crew. According to the Mr. Beast wiki, he still works for Mr. Beast, but mostly behind the scenes. YouTubers who have spent time in jail or prison, Part 2. In February 2022, Saucy and Honey, who had 25,000 subscribers at the time, posted a video titled 24-Hour Overnight Challenge in Target. In the video, the two hid in a Target store after it closed and filmed themselves walking around the store before walking out in the morning, claiming that they had been there all night. However, the video caught the attention of the West Whiteland police, who saw the video and arrested Johnson LaRose and Charlotte Fisher, the couple behind the Saucy and Honey channel. Not only was the challenge exposed as fake, using security camera footage that showed the two leaving the store at 3 a.m., but they were also charged with criminal trespassing and conspiracy. As a result, Saucy and Honey are now facing up to 7 years in prison for their actions. Mr. Beast crew members who got fired and why, Part 3. Jake the Viking first appeared in the video Do Water Repellent Shoes Actually Work? Back in 2018. At the time, the content on the channel was quite physical, so having Jake as a member of the team was a perfect fit. However, by early 2020, the content on the Mr. Beast channel started to shift away from physical challenges. As a result, Jake began to appear in fewer and fewer videos. His last appearance on the channel was in the $60,000 Extreme Hide and Seek Challenge video. 4 months later, Jake uploaded a video titled Why I Left Mr. Beast, in which he said the best way to describe his departure was that his piece no longer fit the puzzle. He also mentioned that he wanted to leave in order to pursue content creation under his own name, as he wanted to be his own boss and do his own thing. Despite leaving the Mr. Beast team, Jake has maintained success on his own. He has gained over 1 million subscribers on YouTube and over 2.5 million followers on TikTok. Here are some cities that you won't believe actually exist. Number 1 is Whittier, Alaska, where all residents live in the same building. All the residents of the city live in this 14-level building that used to be a former military facility. Inside, it has a school, a police station, a hospital, stores, a church, and more. Number 2 is Miracle Village in Florida. That is a city where only sex offenders live. The sex offenders decided to create their own city out in the middle of nowhere since it's hard for them to find places places to live due to their criminal records. Number 3 is the sleeping city of Kalachi, where the residents just randomly fall asleep, even while walking. Between 2012 and 2015, the residents of Kalachi would suddenly begin to slur their words and then fall into a deep sleep that would last days or even weeks. Scientists eventually discovered that it was caused by heightened levels of carbon monoxide from Soviet-era uranium mines in the area. I bet you didn't know that back in 1961, the US government accidentally dropped 2 Mark 39 hydrogen bombs on North Carolina. The bombs fell to Earth after a B-52 bomber broke up in midair, and the nukes behaved precisely as they were designed to behave in warfare. Their parachutes opened, their trigger mechanisms engaged, and only one low-voltage switch prevented untold carnage. Each bomb carried the equivalent of 4 million tons of TNT explosive. Had the device detonated, lethal fallout could have been deposited over Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and even as far north as New York City, putting millions of lives at risk. This armed robber was given a 13-year sentence, except no one ever took him to prison. In 1999, at the age of 23, Michael Anderson was arrested for armed robbery of a Burger King and was sentenced to 13 years behind bars. But while he was out on bail, Michael and his lawyer were attempting to shorten his sentence by appealing to the judge. But after his appeals were denied, his lawyer told him to just wait at home and somebody would come arrest him. But nobody ever did. Cornelius was waiting at his house to be brought to jail for days, weeks, then months, and then years. So he decided to turn his life around. He left all of his old friends, joined a church, started a construction business, got married, and had kids. But in 2013, 13 years after he was convicted, the state figured out what had happened and they arrested him. But after they discovered that he had turned his life around, the government said, "Hey, that's our bad, you're free to go." Most expensive mistakes in history, part 4. Back in 2008, when Bitcoin was first invented, James Howell saw potential in it and mined 7,500 coins. But in 2013, he accidentally threw away the hard drive that stored the Bitcoins. When he realized his mistake, he desperately began combing nearby landfills and dump sites to try to find the hard drive, but was never able to find it. At Bitcoin's peak of $62,000 a coin, his lost stash was worth $465 million. Speaking of losing things, in 2010, a British couple won the lottery and were expectedly overjoyed. They also had a few losing tickets, so to avoid confusion, the husband tried to throw away the losing tickets. But you guessed it, he ended up throwing away the winning ticket instead, and the couple lost out on $147 million.